see this. Look.
Oh, look at that. It's the exact same
It's
kind.
the exact same one. Look.
That's incredible.
Josh Gates has just discovered one of the most incredible fortunes of all time, belonging to the renowned criminal John Dillinger. For years, people have been confused about where Dillinger's hidden treasure might be, rumored to have been buried before he died. There could be more to this gangster's story than we know, and Josh is determined to find it out. Will Josh Gates be able to piece together the clues to uncover the legendary loot? Let us expose the hidden theories of the world's most notorious bank robber, John Dillinger's life of crime. John Dillinger was a well-known criminal in America during the Great Depression, recognized for robbing banks and escaping from the police dramatically. Born on June 22, 1903, in Indianapolis, Indiana, Dillinger's life of crime began in the early 1930s. His bold robberies and ability to avoid capture quickly made him infamous, earning him the label Public Enemy Number 1. Dillinger led a gang that included other notorious criminals like Babyface Nelson and Homer Van Meter. Together, they carried out several high-profile bank robberies across the Midwest.
So John Dillinger is now the most wanted man in America. He's public enemy number 1.
Dillinger was not only famous for his crimes, but also for his charismatic personality. His charm helped him evade arrest multiple times and won him a sort of admiration from the public. His story came to a dramatic end when he was shot by federal agents outside the Biograph Theater in Chicago on July 22, 1934. His marked the end of his criminal activities but cemented his place as one of the most famous criminals in American history. Years later, the land owned by the Dillinger family still held interest. Mike Thompson and Travis, Dillinger's nephew and great-nephew, currently owned the property. The family had long believed that Dillinger hid a large amount of money somewhere on their land. This belief was supported by Mike, who confirmed that the family had always talked about hidden money. Motivated by this family tale, a group of individuals began to search the property, hoping to find something significant. Their search paid off when they found a mason jar buried underground, which seemed to be from the period of Dillinger's criminal activities. Inside the jar, they found items including a 1934 Shell road map. This map was particularly interesting because it was marked with a blue line showing a route across several states and dates that did not correspond to any known events related to Dillinger. This raised questions about whether the map indicated planned criminal activities that were never carried out, or locations where Dillinger might have hidden valuables along the route.
Dillinger himself, or his father,
Yeah.
may have shot this.
Well, it makes it personal.
The discovery of the map and the potential it suggested about Dillinger's plans were intriguing. The specific dates and routes on the map were analyzed, but they did not match up with any recorded bank robberies or other significant events involving Dillinger. This discrepancy led to speculation about what Dillinger might have intended with these markings. Perhaps these were plans for future robberies or hints at locations where he had hidden money or valuables that were never recovered. Adding to the intrigue, another map was found under unusual circumstances. After a car accident involving Dillinger's relatives, a second map was discovered. This map had strange symbols and numbers on it, similar to the first. The presence of these maps, both linked to Dillinger and covered in strange markings, seemed to support the family stories of hidden wealth. These discoveries implied that there might be more to Dillinger's story, with potential leads that had not been fully explored. The ongoing interest in Dillinger's legacy and the continuous discoveries related to his life suggest that his impact on American history is far-reaching. The maps and potential hidden caches of money or valuables continue to provoke curiosity and research, as they might reveal more about the depth of Dillinger's planning and activities. The possibility that there are still undiscovered aspects of his life and crimes offers a compelling chapter in the history of American crime, suggesting that the legend of John Dillinger might hold more revelations yet to be uncovered. The team's efforts on the Dillinger property were meticulous and exhaustive, using metal detectors and ground-penetrating radar to scrutinize every inch of the land. Led by Stewart, the group targeted challenging areas such as a deep gully, hoping that the sophisticated equipment would uncover something significant. The unyielding dedication seemed, to an outside observer, almost overly hopeful. As they surveyed the flat areas, Josh, with a keen eye for detail, paid close attention to the radar, eager to detect any slight anomaly beneath the surface. This continued probing eventually led to the discovery of a large, out-of-place rock, followed by several more such findings. While these might have been dismissed as ordinary geological features by the less enthusiastic to Stewart and his team, they represented potential keys to understanding the land's hidden layers. Their persistence was rewarded when, nestled deep within a ravine, they unearthed a perfectly preserved mason jar.
We got another jar.
And there's another jar beside it. It looks to be substantially intact as well.
This discovery was soon followed by finding 2 more jars nearby, creating a ripple of excitement among the searchers. Buried for what was estimated to be nearly 87 years, these jars were from the era when John Dillinger was known for his criminal endeavors. Despite the passage of decades, the exceptional condition of these jars spoke volumes about the quality of craftsmanship during that period. The contents, however, were less remarkable. Old refuse and a couple of metal items that initially seemed promising, but turned out to be mundane. The artifact's excellent preservation indeed stood out, but what they contained offered a less thrilling insight. Below the layer where the first jars were discovered, the team uncovered a piece of broken glass and what appeared to be a concealed item wrapped in cloth. This hidden object, initially thought to be a valuable coin, was revealed upon closer inspection to be a used shotgun round. This round, identified by its Winchester repeater 20-gauge mark, had been manufactured sometime between 1896 and 1938, aligning it with the time frame of Dillinger's life. Although the round was fired, evidenced by its damaged cap, it suggested a more everyday aspect of life on the farm, rather than any dramatic criminal activity. It painted a picture of John Dillinger not just as a notorious criminal, but as a young man who had lived a normal life on this farm, perhaps hunting or practicing shooting. Dillinger's life of crime is over, but his story still sparks interest. See how his family deals with his legacy. Artifacts from a notorious time. The discovery of these everyday objects provided a richer, if less exciting, perspective on life at the Dillinger farm during the turbulent early 20th century. It was a time fraught with economic hardship and modest expectations, yet also brimming with opportunities for a different kind of life. The items retrieved by Stewart and his team, far from being the glamorous spoils of a notorious criminal's hidden wealth, were rather mundane relics that offered a tangible connection to John Dillinger. They grounded his larger-than-life criminal persona in the realities of that era, reflecting not high-stakes criminal drama, but the simple personal history of a man and his family. These findings, while perhaps underwhelming to those hoping for treasure, significantly enriched the historical narrative of the Dillinger farm. They anchored the mythic figure of Dillinger in the mundane details of everyday survival, offering insights into his personal history and the setting in which he lived.
This is mind-melting to see original clothing and items from the gang.
Each artifact, from the jars to the spent shotgun shell, contributed a small but meaningful piece to the story of Dillinger's life, highlighting the human aspect of the infamous character. Such discoveries, though not sensational in nature, deepened the understanding of the historical landscape of the site, emphasizing the blend of personal and historical significance embedded in the soil of the Dillinger property. Josh approached 2 of his relatives with a direct question. Did they think of John Dillinger as a kind of Robin Hood, who stole from the rich and supposedly gave to the poor despite his illegal actions? The relatives took a moment to think about this, as Dillinger had been depicted in many different ways over the years. Some saw him purely as a criminal, while others viewed him with a more understanding lens. This led them to discuss Dillinger's first time in prison, which lasted nearly 10 years and took away much of his early adult life. The heavy punishment Dillinger received was something many in his hometown felt was too harsh. In fact, they felt so strongly that they even signed a petition to try and reduce his time in jail. The relatives also talked about how Dillinger's wrongdoings deeply affected his family. They mentioned watching old newsreels from the 1930s that often showed important events, famous people, and significant cultural trends. These newsreels, which were a way for people to see what was happening in the world before TV news existed, included scenes of Dillinger's father visiting him in jail. The footage made it clear that despite his criminal activities, Dillinger's family continued to love and support him, which had a significant emotional impact on them. This conversation provided Josh with a new understanding of Dillinger. It was clear that he was more than just a criminal. His life was full of difficult choices and challenges that led him down a risky path. Getting to know the human side of Dillinger made the story more complex and highlighted how his actions affected those close to him. Several days after his talk with the Dillinger family, Josh joined his team in examining a newly discovered burial site. Here they found a small, sealed coffin that seemed very old, likely made for a child, possibly even an infant. This find was significant as it provided insights into the burial traditions of the people who lived in the area long ago. The placement of the coffin, pushed against the wall of a grand burial site from the Old Kingdom, but added after that era had ended, suggested that the child's family, perhaps unable to afford their own burial plot, chose this spot next to the tomb of a wealthy individual. This was not unusual for the time, as many ancient societies practiced similar burial customs, trying their best to ensure a good afterlife for their loved ones.
See, it's sealed.
Yes, it is.
Yes. It means the human remains. It's well preserved.
As the desert winds grew stronger, the team decided to move their delicate findings to a nearby tent to protect them. However, Josh and the others stayed outside, eager to keep searching for more artifacts. Their persistence paid off when they uncovered a small piece of gold, which seemed to be part of a necklace. This discovery indicated that the child's family might have had some status, as gold was a precious metal usually reserved for the well-off in ancient societies. They also found a pottery vase, much older than the coffin, suggesting it was meant to go into the afterlife with the child. In those times, it was common to bury the dead with items like food, clothing, and personal belongings to help them in the next world. These practices show how people in the past dealt with and tried to care for their loved ones even after they were gone, reflecting a deep-seated concern for the welfare of family members that echoes through history, similar to the care Dillinger's family showed him despite his flawed life choices. As they unearthed another basket, which turned out to be a container with two parts, a basin and a lid, the team couldn't help but express their subdued surprise. This discovery suggested that the child's burial was part of a larger, carefully planned funeral practice. They carefully transported the casket using ropes and a stretcher, protecting it from the desert storm. Josh felt a strange responsibility, almost as if he were taking on the role of a pallbearer for a child who had lived in thousands of years ago. Normally, a pallbearer is someone who helps carry or accompany a coffin during a funeral. Simple items found at Dillinger's farm show life during hard times. Now, explore an old burial site with even older stories. Ancient burial practices. Once inside the shelter of the tent, the team put on masks to protect themselves from ancient spores or dust that might be harmful. They examined the casket, noting the damage from moisture over the years. They carefully opened the lid to examine the contents. Inside, despite the general decay, they found an earring made of what they believed to be ivory. This discovery led them to think that the remains might be those of a female. Josh considered the howling wind outside, half-jokingly wondering if it was a sign that the spirit of the young girl was still present. Despite its worn condition, The casket still housed treasures waiting to be rediscovered. The team found beads from a necklace made of earthenware and quartz, which had been treated to achieve a glossy finish. These beads had maintained their bright colors over the centuries, showcasing the exceptional skills of ancient craftsmen.
Lived and died and was buried in this cemetery during the New Kingdom, which is still over 3,000 years ago.
The team carefully collected these beads, knowing they would require preservation and possibly restoration to bring the necklace back to its former beauty. This discovery not only added an element of interest, but also provided insights into the cultural and artistic practices of the society that had so carefully buried its young. Each artifact they found offered a window into a history buried for ages. Discovering linen wrappings led them to conclude that the body inside the casket had been mummified. Despite the mummy's poor condition, the brown linen material still clung to the remains, indicating that it had been completely wrapped. The presence of the ivory earring and the intricate necklace suggested that the girl belonged to a higher social class. Reflecting on the broader implications of their findings, Josh saw a deep connection to a human life, a little girl who had lived in over 3,000 years ago during the New Kingdom era. She was not just an anonymous historical figure. She had a family, a life, and her own story that had been forgotten until now. The researchers appreciated the ancient Egyptians' detailed efforts to ensure the girl's presence in the afterlife. They believed that, although her life was short, she had been thoroughly prepared for eternity through the elaborate burial practices of her time. After completing their examination, the team respectfully closed the coffin again, leaving the mummy to rest once more. As the wind died down, they considered the implications of their discoveries, including a nearby large burial tomb, which might provide clues about the downfall of the Old Kingdom. This possibility offered a chance to deepen their understanding of the ancient culture they were slowly bringing back into the light. Workers at the archaeological site expanded the recently uncovered entrance to the upper chamber by removing sand. Their efforts revealed a complete pottery jar, which raised questions about whether its placement was accidental or intentional. This find suggested that they might discover either very valuable items or perhaps nothing of significance in the main burial chamber situated directly below. The condition of the upper room, seemingly untouched, heightened their expectations about what might lie within. This anticipation of uncovering something significant motivated the team as they delved deeper, driven by the promise of understanding more about the civilization that had constructed these chambers. Simultaneously, Josh ventured into the history of the famed city of El Dorado, which has captivated treasure hunters and historians for generations. The legend of El Dorado describes a city overflowing with gold, a concept that has tantalized explorers for centuries. Driven by tales of unimaginable wealth, numerous explorers ventured into South America, often at the expense of indigenous populations. These explorers, mostly Spanish conquistadors, were drawn by stories of a city where gold was abundant, streets were filled with valuable metals, and leaders adorned themselves in gold dust during significant events. However, the reality of El Dorado is likely more complex than the legends suggest. While historical records confirm that ancient Colombian societies possessed considerable wealth, including gold, the literal interpretation of a city made entirely of gold is probably more fiction than fact. El Dorado more accurately represents the symbolic wealth and cultural depth of various indigenous groups in South America. Ongoing archaeological efforts continue to shed light on these societies, revealing a rich tapestry of history that goes beyond simple treasure tales.
So this would have been offered up to these gods?
The Museum of Gold in Bogota has 55,000 pieces. They reckon that represents about 5% of what the Muiscas gave to their god.
Among the exciting recent findings is the rumored discovery of a cave, believed to hold a vast collection of gold and ceremonial items, offerings from ancient peoples. Despite the appeal of such tales, the cave remains shrouded in uncertainty. Another significant discovery involves graves near Colombia's ancient site known as El Infiernito, or Little Hell. which was a crucial ceremonial center for the ancient Muisca people. These graves provide new insights into the practices and societal structures of the Muisca, challenging the simplistic and often sensationalized stories of a golden city. These ongoing discoveries continue to paint a more nuanced picture of the region's past, emphasizing the cultural and historical importance rather than just the material wealth. From ancient remains to El Dorado's legends, Josh's travel uncovers long-lost legendary tales buried in the sands of time. The Muisca's Advanced Society. The Muisca were an indigenous group in what is now known as the Central Highlands of Colombia, specifically in the Altiplano Cundiboyacense region close to Bogotá. They were renowned not just for their agriculture but also for their advanced skills in metalworking and the sophisticated structure of their society. The tombs found in this area provide invaluable insights into the customs and everyday life of this historically significant society, offering a glimpse into Colombia's diverse and rich history. Josh Gates's quest to uncover truths about the fabled city of El Dorado takes him into the Andes foothills to Sesquile, a site revered by the Muisca. This path, often depicted as thrilling and risky, seems to follow a traditional narrative that many have pursued, perhaps ignoring the deeper cultural connections and the reality of the indigenous people's history. He is joined by Ashley Cowie, who has established deep connections with the local tribal leaders over many years. These connections are crucial, as they help in navigating the cultural and physical complexities of the region. The Muisca civilization was organized into several chiefdoms, each led by a cacique or chief. This structured approach to governance and their method of farming on terraced slopes are testaments to their advanced societal organization. They cultivated maize, potatoes, beans, and squash, utilizing the mountainous land efficiently. As Josh and Ashley venture deeper into the jungle, their surroundings reveal a world of ancient structures and artifacts, untouched by modern influences. These remnants are proof of the Muisca's ingenuity and craftsmanship, and hold keys to understanding their culture. Upon arrival in the Muisca town of Sesquile, they are welcomed by the community, which is closely tied to its land and ancestors.
We're going to place these in the fire, so we're asking for the good positive energies to be fertilized into our life and for the old negative energies to be burned.
The community is portrayed as being open and willing to share their knowledge and traditions, which adds to the understanding of Muisca culture. The ruins explored by Josh and Ashley are vast and intricate, not merely isolated structures, but part of a comprehensive network that sprawls across the landscape. Each discovery made by the team brings them closer to understanding the broader context of Muisca heritage. However, the path is challenging. The dense jungle and unpredictable weather test their physical and mental strength. Yet, their determination to discover more about the Muisca and the mythical El Dorado drives them forward, deeper into the historical heartland of the jungle. At the core of Muisca belief was Chiminigagua, the creator who was responsible for the sun and moon. These celestial bodies were seen as united, symbolizing a balance of divine forces. The Muisca revered Chiminigagua through these heavenly bodies, as he was considered too sacred for direct worship. Gold was immensely significant in Muisca culture, seen not just as a valuable resource but as a spiritual substance. They believed gold was the sweat of the sun, representing the sun's life-giving power. Therefore, gold was extensively used in religious ceremonies and offerings, signifying the Muisca's reverence for the sun and its crucial role in sustaining life. This spiritual connection with gold often gets lost in sensationalized tales of El Dorado, which tend to focus more on the material wealth rather than the cultural and spiritual depth of the Muisca people.
They must be so dripping in gold that they can afford to bathe in it almost.
Yeah.
Their imaginations must have gone wild.
The ongoing exploration and findings continue to challenge these simplified stories, revealing a complex society that equally valued material and spiritual, integrating these into their daily and ceremonial practices. The Gold Museum in Bogotá, Colombia, displays an impressive collection of over 55,000 gold artifacts, which is believed to be just a small fraction, around 5%, of the total gold objects once offered by the Muisca people to their gods. This significant amount of gold artifacts underlines gold's crucial role in their religious practices and ceremonies. The Muisca are well known for their advanced goldsmithing skills, using a technique called lost wax casting to create detailed and complex designs and figures. Josh and his companion direct their attention to the Temple of the Sun, positioned on a hilltop. This temple is the threshold to some of Colombia's most revered locations. Upon reaching the top, they encounter a large ceremonial building and meet Carlos Candel, the leader of the community. However, gaining access to these sacred areas is a challenging process. As an outsider, Josh must earn the trust of the local community and show respect for their traditions and values. This requires him to understand and adapt to the intricate social structures of the Muisca society, demonstrating his sincerity and respect for their way of life. Josh's exploration goes beyond simply finding old artifacts. His travel is deeply connected to appreciating and understanding the beliefs and customs of the Muisca people. In their culture, asking for the gods' approval for important tasks involves a ritual that combines healing practices with offerings to the spiritual world. Central to this ritual is the village chief, who plays a vital role by using tobacco to invite the spirit of the sun god to guide and protect Josh and his group. This action is a serious request for spiritual guidance and protection, symbolizing a connection between the spiritual and earthly realms. The ritual becomes more intense with a ceremony filled with smoke, led by the shaman, who distributes a finely powdered snuff known as rape. This is meant to bring peace and purity to those present, preparing them for the next part of the ceremony, which involves a cleansing offering. Here, the youngest leader hands out cotton balls that represent negative and positive energies, the left side for negative thoughts and the right side for positive thoughts. The participants are directed to transfer all their negative energy into the cotton, which is then burned. The act of burning the cotton symbolizes the removal of bad energy, transforming it into good through the fire. This represents purification and renewal, crucial for maintaining the spiritual well-being and continuity of the community. Discover the rich culture of the Muisca, where gold means more than wealth, as Josh digs deeper into their history. The legend of El Dorado.
This is maize and Muisca saliva, Josh. Yes. It's fermented for a long time, so it's really strong. It's going to hit you where it can.
The concluding part of the Muisca ritual involves a traditional beverage called chicha, made from fermented maize. This drink is highly significant to the Muisca people, embodying deep cultural and spiritual meanings. During the ceremony, a sizable container of chicha is passed around among the participants. This act highlights the shared aspect of the ritual, promoting unity and collective participation. However, consuming chicha is unique and involves more than just drinking. It includes chewing maize kernels and then spitting them into a fermenting container. This process, called mastication, is believed to enhance the drink's flavor and strength. Although it might seem unpleasant, participating in this ritual by drinking chicha is regarded as a privilege and a mark of respect for the traditions of the Muisca. Carlos Candel guides Josh and Ashley from the Temple of the Sun to the ceremonial center of the Muisca people at Lake Guatavita, a site deeply embedded with stories of El Dorado. It is believed that the El Dorado legend began with a ritual at this lake, which is crucial for understanding the cultural and historical backdrop of the Muisca. The Museum of Bogotá features a golden raft that symbolizes the actual raft used in the ceremonies conducted at Lake Guatavita. During the king's coronation, the Muisca leader, known as the Zipa, would be positioned on this raft, surrounded by his aides, to celebrate his official acknowledgement as the ruler. This event was a significant public display, not just a formal procedure, showcasing his spiritual and political dominance. The spiritual significance of Lake Guatavita was profound, drawing large crowds eager to witness their ruler covered in gold. a plant-based adhesive was applied to his skin to prepare for the ceremony, which was then covered in gold dust, transforming him into a radiant figure. The raft, heavily laden with gold statues and other treasures, would be positioned in the middle of the lake. As sunlight struck the gold-covered monarch, he would dive into the lake. This dramatic act symbolized his transformation into El Hombre Dorado, or the Golden Man. This ceremonial dive was more than just a spectacle. It was a powerful reaffirmation of the divine status and authority of the Muisca rulers, strengthening the community's spiritual bonds and reverence for their leader. Josh considers how the story of El Hombre Dorado, initially a single figure coated in gold, evolved into the tale of El Dorado, a city entirely made of gold. This transformation began when Spanish explorers first heard whispers about a man dressed entirely in gold and the immense wealth of his region, prompting them to scour the area for gold. As years passed, these stories expanded and morphed into the legend of a city built of gold.
The name El Dorado comes from the words, the golden.
During the 16th century, the explorer Gonzalo Jiménez de Quesada ventured into the highlands of Colombia, playing a significant role in spreading the tale of El Dorado. Despite numerous hardships like sickness, hunger, and the loss of many of his men, Quesada and the few survivors who returned did so with compelling stories of immense treasures hidden deep in the forests. These stories, filled with the appeal of gold, lured many adventurers and fortune seekers for centuries. The story of El Dorado highlights how humans often cling to grandiose tales, even when faced with grim realities, driven by the hope of finding wealth. The story of El Dorado continues to hold the interest of people all over the world, demonstrating the lasting appeal of exploration and the search for riches. As Josh Gates wraps up his exploration into the intriguing situation of John Dillinger's stolen money, one thing is evident. The attraction to discover hidden riches and the excitement of new finds still strongly influence our imaginations. The legends of El Dorado, together with the compelling past of the Muisca people, serve as a reminder of the powerful role such stories play in driving human actions. These stories not only spark our interest in what lies beyond our current knowledge, but also underscore our continuous quest for wealth, which frequently leads us down difficult and unpredictable roads. This ongoing interest in tales of undiscovered gold and unknown lands reveals a fundamental aspect of human nature, a combination of curiosity, hope, and an everlasting longing for wealth. Is John Dillinger's treasure just a myth? Or could there be something real and valuable still hidden out there? Could it even change what we know about the famous gangster's life? Tell us what you think in the comments below, and remember to like and subscribe for more.